So I'm waiting for the recording to start, all right, because it requires some screaming here. Now, at the same time, then maybe you can just go on to explore the examples I've now shared with you, all right? You can also try as a student, and then later on you can see what we can obtain as a teacher on the screen about the students' work. Okay, now I think we can continue with the second part of the demonstration. So, and this is the activity I just shared with you. I can go outside the teacher's page and then to let you have an overlook where we have a few slides to go through. The first few are within the graphing calculator, right? So you can have a look of the second one. This graph also includes a movable point, right? And then you can try it out later to see how it works. And then the multiple choice option is also different, all right? Later on, you can try to check it. Particularly, you can find that it is actually here, the setup allows you to select more than one correct answer, okay? And later on, you will find out why it is important and very useful, right? Okay, now let's go back to the editing. So that is original draft, all right? I just try with you with only one slide, and then here I can now go on with the editing. So I just go on to edit my activity, right? And then I can continue to add more slides. Are you with me? So maybe you have to go back to your own page because I think you have already created something, okay? And then you can go back to this page, that page of your own, so that you can go on to edit it. Can you follow me? Okay, so if you edit your own activity, now you go back to the editing mode. This you can see the first slide, right? Now I can add another slide, or they call it screen actually. The Desmos team will call it screen, and then sometimes call it slide. So there is a second screen. I can also do another examples. Here I put the graph here again, right, so that I can draw something on the graph. Here, if I click inside, all right, then I can start using the graphing calculator. Now here, this time I enter a function. Okay, so maybe now I put a function here, a parabola, and then I put down another function, which is k times f of x. This is how the graphing calculator works in the Desmos, right? And if you're not sure about that, you have to go back to the graphing calculator to find out and what is provided there. All right, so very simple. If you press k times f of x, then you will click, they will suggest you to add a slider because they don't know what k is, right? So you just simply follow it and then click to add a slider. Then k will be something from -10 to +10. But actually, I don't need such a range. So I will click on one of this number to edit the range of the slider. So if I click that, then I can find that I can just create another range. Okay, so I click the number again so that I can also modify the step. I make it a little bit smaller, so it's 0.01, all right? And then enter. Now I have a new slider from 1 to 2 only. Okay, can you do this? Are you okay? Right? Okay, if you can do it, then let me now try to, okay, go to the preview. Maybe you can click done and see how it works. If you go on to the preview, then you can see two graphs, all right? But you do not see the slider. Do you notice that? All right. So you may not be able to change the graph dynamically. So what can I do here if I want to make the graph dynamic? All right. Now you can try something like this. If you have a point 0k, so this is a point, all right, and then see what it work. What will happen? You have a point here. Can you see this on the y-axis? So this point depends on k. Right, this red dot depends on k. But actually, you can also drag this point to change k. Interestingly, you see that I'm dragging it because the setting of the point here allow you to drag. If you click on this circle, you can see the setting option. Okay, including these three options, all right? Because now you can find that it's very intelligent because the tools know that you are having a point depending on k, and this one it allows you to change the point dynamically. That means at the same time you change the value of k as well, okay? And so you can only change it vertically. I think you can't. Can you do it? Oh, you can also even do it in another direction, but don't mess it up. All right. I think just leave it vertical. All right. And of course, you can also disable it. In that case, then you can't really change the point directly. Okay. You can only change the point through the slider. All right. So you can distinguish the option here, whether you make it draggable. That means you can drag it or not. All right. Now, but why I want to add a point here? Actually, I want to add a point in the vertex of the blue parabola so that I can control the blue one on the screen later on. But where is this point? Do you know what I mean? Where is this point? Okay, so you can have a check. Okay, so according to the graph, this point is in the point for x coordinate is 1.5 because it's half of the range, 0 and 3. And then for the vertical, yes, that means the y coordinate, you can just press k times f of 1.5. You don't want to do any calculation directly. Sorry, I pressed something extra. Okay. All right, so I now press k times f of 1.5. So you can see the point now is already in the vertex. Right? So you need some mathematics to help you to figure out. Okay, so you want to change the color, then you can also do it to distinguish it. All right, now if you click done and preview, then you can see this point. You can actually move it. You notice that? Okay. And okay, now I added the graph again. Now I don't need this original point. I just leave the green one on the screen, which I can move it. All right. And now I can use it to ask another question. So I can put a note there on the right to start asking the question. My question is, I can give a statement first. The equation of the red graph is, okay, now I can add a math expression. So you can use it to type neatly some math expression inside minus 3x, okay? So just tab it and full stop. Oh, sorry, where is it? Okay. And then I start asking the question, which of the following could be the equation of the blue graph? So I give you some choices, all right? And don't forget that you can remind the student to drag the green dot in order to get a sense of how it can change. Okay, so that is my question. And now I can give some option for the student to choose. All right, so where are the options? Now instead of multiple choice, this time I use the check boxes. Right, you can see the check boxes here. All right, and the difference is that for check boxes, you can have more than one correct answer. So because I have a range for k, so I suppose that there are some possible answers. For example, y equals, sorry, I should type the math expression directly. Y equals 2, actually the maximum I can make for k will be equal to 2. This is how I set up. All right. So this is one possible option. Actually, you can see whether student can sense that you can have this one, or maybe you can even have simply k equal to 1. So actually, this one is also possible. That means simply the original graph. Okay. So similarly, you can add more. Maybe I can add something like y equals to negative x squared. Okay. And then you can have more as you like, y equals to maybe 1/2, okay? And then you can test whether the student can see that it is possible or not. All right, so these are some possible answers. Can you follow? Okay, now among this, if you remember, K is between 1 and 2, so I can only have this one and this one. Now I can now click 2 because we have the checkbox, all right? So you can have more than one correct answers. Understand my point here? Okay. So if now you go to the preview, then you can see that we have 4, you can have more options. And then let's see whether student can distinguish because they have to drag the red dot and then to sense how far the graph can change, all right? And then select the appropriate one accordingly. And of course, you can also ask them to leave an answer, explanation. But you cannot, because of the component is now checkbox, you cannot ask them to give the explanation directly. So instead, maybe you can use a free response boxes. Here, I drag it here. You can have a free response boxes to ask them to explain, okay? So maybe you can leave it here, explain your choices. All right, that means you can choose, ask them to choose, and then at the end, ask them to explain why they choose those values, right? So these are different things that you can add to the screen. Okay, can you understand? Any questions about this? If you are fine with this, then you can publish it, right? Then you have another screen added to your activity. All right. Now you can find that actually the graph can be a little bit more dynamic. All right. And then you can invite the student to talk about the changes here. All right. So what are the changes you think is possible here? And which graph corresponding to this situation. Now, so I show you something that rather specific to Desmos, because at the beginning, you may wonder, we are just writing some simple, maybe some simple multiple choice questions. It's true, of course, at the beginning, we can just use it to create some ordinary or typical multiple choice questions, right? But at the same time, because in the Desmos environment, and then if you're more familiar with the tool, then you can actually create a little bit more unusual or maybe interactive or dynamic types of questions. Of course, the most important thing is that you can use it to test your students' understanding. Okay, it's not just for fun. I want to highlight that. It is about providing more means to test your students' understanding. Okay, even though it may not be the usual type you find it on paper and pencil. Okay, any questions about these example? Can you follow so far? Are you okay? All right. Now then maybe I can go on to, let's say, I think we can do quickly 2 more examples about graphing calculator, all right? Before we have another short break. So now I go back to edit my activity so that now I can add more slides there. Okay. So I now add the third one here. This is the third one. Okay. I continue to use the graphing tools. But bear in mind that actually you have also another full screen graphing calculator. All right. Now later on you can check it. And if you use the full screen graphing calculator, then the student can access all the functions inside the graphing calculator, which can be good for some reasons. Okay. But it can also be not so useful. And so you can decide whether you want a full screen one or you just want to use a graph component embedded inside your screen, and so that you can ask other questions or do other things at the same time. Okay, you can have a choice later. So I still keep using this one, the graphing components about. Can you distinguish? All right. So if I use the graphing tools now, then I can edit it again. Now this time I want to add an equations. By the way, I'm going to draw a circle with a center AB. Now let's get familiar with the syntax here. If I just press enter point A, B without defining A and B, then they will prompt you to add a slider. Okay, so you can just click all, then you have 2 sliders, A and B. That means you have 2 variables, A and B here. And at the same time, by default, the point is can be dragged, okay, draggable. So you can see the choices here. You can disable it. But if you make it draggable, that means you can now freely drag the point on the screen and then changing A and B directly by dragging the point. Right? You don't have to really refer to the slider. All right, can you see the relation? All right. Now, so this is supposed to be the center of a circle, right? I'm going to draw. Now I want to go draw a circle with this center AB, but also passing through the origin. So I have this x minus a whole square, and then plus y minus b whole square equals, I want this to passing through the origin, so the radius will be this one. Okay, so done. Now you can test it. No matter how you drag, it will be a circle passing through the origin. Can you see that? Now, if you go outside and then preview it, then you'll find that you don't have the the student can't edit your equation, but they can still drag this point. Right? So the most important part is that you can still play around with this dragging. This is the preview mode. Now I can add my question. I think I do it a little bit fast, okay, because the rest of the setup is more or less the same. So I can ask a question based on this picture, which of the following and not, this time I like to ask which one cannot be the equation. Okay, so and remind them to drag the red dots again so that they know that there's some limitation on the graph. Okay, so explain your answer. So there will be some space below for them to explain the answer. Well, so actually this is also a very good means to get students used to explaining the answer. It's not only just for training them to answer exam question. From my point of view, it is developing the habits to communicate, right? So I hope that you can see the difference. Anyway, now I can go back to add some options in the checkbox, okay? So you can freely think about what options should be provided. I now prepare a few. So can the equation be like this? Okay, so that can be one option. And then another option, so you can really think about what you would ask them to choose. Okay, and now the third one, x squared plus y squared minus 36 equal to 0. Okay, so here one more, and x squared plus y squared plus 4x plus 5y equals 0. Right, so I think of this 4 options for students to choose. And among them, only this one is not possible. Right? Now, I say that there can be more than one correct answer. All right? But actually, there's only one correct answer. Right? So it's a bit tricky here. Well, so you can think about how to design your answers. And finally, I add the free response area for the student to explain. So when you click the preview, so now you can see there's somewhere for them to put down the explanation. All right, and then they can also choose. They can select more than one that they think may apply. All right. So let's see what they choose. Don't forget that they can still drag the point and then try to understand how this circle may change. All right. Okay, so that is the third slide. Now I go to the fourth one quickly and then see whether you have any questions. Okay, so this is the fourth one, still within the graphing calculator environment. So I use the graphing calculator. Click this one to get a component. And then this time what we're going to do will be much simpler. We just want to add few points, right? And just let you know that you can add points like this. Let's say I want the point 2, 2. So this is not supposed to be changed. So you can see the option here. you are not allowed to drag it. But if you choose to drag it, then you can still do it, actually. Okay, then you can, now this is not related to any slider, but you can still drag it, okay? If you want it to be a free point on the screen, then you can do this. Or if not, then disable it. Okay, can you see a difference? Okay. And now you can also play with the label. If you click label, then you can see the coordinate is displayed. Okay. But the label actually can something else. For example, I can put the letter A, and then you can see this is now shown. Use it to distinguish the point, give it a name. All right. So you can do it here in the label. All right. So you can decide whether you want to use a letter or something else, right? Or even you can just write any word you like here, right? That can also be a label. Can you see this? Of course, you can, if you don't put down anything, but still click the label, remember, then you will get the coordinate. Particularly, if you don't show the grid, now I use the gear tools here. And so if you don't show the grid, sorry, I can show the number, but I don't show the grid. Right, then the coordinates will be useful. Right, it is another way to test the student understanding of the reading the graph and so on. You can think about how this setup may change, right, the nature of the question. All right, so I go back to this one, just press A, and then I want to add more points. You can freely add any point you like. The second one I would like to do here will be choose 6. And then similarly, I want to call it B. So you can put some point here, like what I have done. I'm now just putting more points. So you may think about what question can you ask with these points? Any idea? Okay, now I have 5 points, right? So you can think about what question you would like to ask. You can go back to change all the colors so it may look more consistent. If there's no need to distinguish it by color, then you can just change the color one by one. Okay. Okay, you can play with other setup later. Now I have a graph. Can you see this? I have a graph, and I can add questions besides it. So actually, what I like to ask is which 2 points form a vertical line. So you can create a box for them to just put down directly. Okay, it can be a free response box, but it can also be the check boxes so that they can neatly label the point or maybe mark the point because you just have 5 points here. All right. And in my question here, A and B will form a vertical line. So you can mark this. All right. So if you look at the preview, then it will be something like this. All right. So understand how it works. Is it okay? Now, look carefully. Now I'm going to demonstrate another useful setup. So so far we now play with this graph, right? It is a graph from the graphing calculator, and so you can just draw the graph easily inside. Okay, but actually, if you click on this 3 dot, you can see the choices. Now let's try to turn it into a sketch. See what it look like. Okay, and so I click on it, and then it's a sketch. What does it mean? The student will be able to sketch below, preview to try it out. Okay, now we're going to preview. Can you see the difference? It is now a picture. Now remember, if you turn it into a sketch, even though if you try to make some point movable, okay, it will now be all disabled. It will be totally just a picture. But the advantage is that the student can now draw on this using this, okay? So maybe you want them to show you where is the vertical line. Instead of just clicking 2 points, all right, you want them to show you, okay, what does it mean by vertical line? Actually, you can ask more complicated questions. For example, can you choose 3 points that form a right angle triangle? Do you agree? Then you can ask them to draw. Okay, so you can ask them to demonstrate or mark here or do any kind of illustration or even draw or put down text, okay, to remind or to write down the answers. In some cases, maybe you want them to write down the coordinates. Maybe you want them to write down coordinates of the point E. Okay, I can put it here. So you can ask them to show you directly on the graph, maybe something like this. Okay. All right, can you follow me? That means you can change the graph into a sketch, but you can also turn it back into a graph. Don't worry, everything is still inside the graph. If you click inside, you can still edit it. Okay, now let me show you. If I make the point A draggable, okay, this now the point A is draggable. I change it. So if it is a graph, and then you preview it, you find that the point A can be dragged. You see that? Okay, but if you turn it into a sketch, everything is now becomes a picture, right? Even though originally you assume the point A is draggable, but now you can see the preview. You cannot drag the point A. Right? What you do will be drawing something on it. All right. Understand the difference now? All right. So I hope that it will easily work for you. All right. And then now, by the way, actually this setup can ask many other questions. Just like what I mentioned, you can also ask them, can you choose 3 points that make an isosceles triangle? Do you see any isosceles triangle here? Maybe we can have a look. Okay. So you can use this setup for asking quite a lot of different kind of questions if you like. Okay. Or you can also ask them what's the length of AB. Once they choose, okay, when they choose AB to vertical line, you can add another questions there. Maybe I can put another question here. What is the length of your chosen segment? Okay, so how many units? So you can maybe add the math response because you want this to be a mathematical answer. Okay, so you can even ask them to explain. Okay, because they may tell you, maybe they will tell you that so the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Or in this case, they may say the count of bricks. Okay, so let's say they may answer it like this. Or if you allow them only to read the coordinate, then they may have to tell you that they can do the subtraction based on the coordinate, right? So to change the setup, then you change the question anyway. All right, understand? So we can publish it. Now we have the first 4 slides here, all right, done in my example. I think it's time for us to have a short break, all right, before we move on to some other slides. It depends on how much time we have to